So I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, great. So, we're going to be talking about investing in cell and gene therapy today. I'm just curious to get a sense of the audience. How many of you are investors? And how many are companies looking to raise funding? Seems like most companies. Okay, great. So today we have for you three extremely experienced and wonderful women up here who are going to be talking about their funds and their experience in cell and gene therapy. So I think we start off by having them intro themselves, talking about their funds and what they've invested in cell and gene therapy to date. Then I'll talk a little bit about what CERN does, and we'll get into some of the questions. So you're going to be focused on industry as well as what's important when you're out there raising funding in this particular sector. Chidi, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so hi. My name is Colby. I'm an associate director of Vigor Central Partners. We are a global VC, and we have 8 offices worldwide. We're currently on our 6th fund, which is a $500 million fund, and we are deep tech investors. So we invest a lot in healthcare, biotech, but also in fintech, energy, as well as new materials. Within healthcare and biotech, we've invested in anything from pharmaceuticals, devices, next generation X-rays, vaccines, AI for drug discovery. We have not today made any investments in cell and gene therapy, but we're really closely looking at this space, and we're really interested in making an investment there as well. Our typical ticket size is 5 to 10 million, so that's all.
I'm Florence Rosen. I'm Senior Scientific Advisor with Fonds de Solidarité FTQ. We're a labor-sponsored fund based in Montreal. We have $17 billion under management, but we have part of a life science group of 7 professionals that invest $100 million every year into life sciences. Half of that is direct companies, biotech, life science companies. The other half is specialized life science VC funds. We have 20 companies in our portfolio. We have a geographic focus in Quebec. Having said that, we are allowed to invest outside of Quebec, provided that the money that we invest flows back into Quebec and funds work done in Quebec, for example, CROs or clinical trial sites. Within our portfolio of 20 companies, we have one company in gene therapy. They're called Engene, and it's interesting. We invested in 2013, 2014, and then we would never call it gene therapy. It was a swear word back then, and people would run from the room if you called it a gene therapy company. So we would call it a non-viral targeted gene delivery, and which is really what it is. But today we're thrilled to call it gene therapy. My role is the scientist in the group, so I'm responsible for the scientific due diligence in our portfolio, as well as I'm a gatekeeper for incoming investment opportunities. We have yet to make an investment in cell therapy. There's so much that we're following the space, but we have yet to make an investment.
Good afternoon, and thank you for coming. And let me know if you can't hear me, because I don't think this is on. So I'll talk louder. So I'm Ilona Baum. I am a lawyer by training. I'm with DEFTA Partners. I've been with DEFTA for about 4.5 years. DEFTA was created, it's an interesting sort of background. It was founded by a man named George Parra. He was investing in high tech, became very successful, became an advisor to Prime Minister Abe, so we're basically bridged to Japan. And in that context, he realized the super aging populations, in all the developing countries, is basically going to strangle our economies, and we have to do something. So he launched the fund that we're working on right now, and it's healthcare technologies, basically 3 vertical advanced therapeutics, which is cell, gene therapy, and others of the sort. Second is digital health, because of the background earlier. And then, for lack of a better term, organs on a chip would fall into this 3D printed. I just spoke with a woman regarding that. I call it enabling technologies. Our check size is smaller because we're a smaller fund. We usually do a first round $1 to $2 million and save some dry powder for the follow-on round. And we love cell and gene therapy. So my background was Genentech, and then I was at CERN doing the BD function and general counsel. And we have what I would consider next generation cell and gene therapies. And the funny thing about it is, one of the gene therapy companies we invested in, when I first met them at a meeting on the Mesa, which is where all the cell, it's another big meeting, I kept seeing this one company that was really interesting, but I couldn't get my arms around it because they said they were software for cells. And it sounded like if I could understand what they were trying to say, I might actually dive deeper. But they removed the CEO, and then they have another one. I'm like, oh, you're gene therapy. Why didn't you just say so from the very beginning? I felt because you weren't using the terminology that you must not have been that. And hence they missed out on and so did we, a much earlier, lower valuation investment because we later went with them. But I think it was a bad word many, many years ago, and now the opposite is true.
Great, thank you all for your intros. So CERN, for those who are not familiar, we're a California state grant funding agency. We've deployed $1.1 billion to discover and develop gene and cell therapy candidates in the state. Some of the ones you may have heard about are Orchard Therapeutics, gene-modified HSCs, beside us CAR-T therapies, FATES, iPSC-based NK cell therapy, Biosite's embryonic stem cell therapies, which is for diabetes, as well as some of the ones that came out of the embryonic stem cell one, which is RPT, which is for the eye, and several preclinical ones as well. We fund projects fully, all the way, so we have different stages from discovery, translation to clinical trials. At the moment, we deployed most of that money, except for $30 million that we set aside for sickle cell disease, and we're funding that with NIH for gene therapy trials, and we're hoping to deploy that money over the course of this year. So having said all that, we are very much, as someone said, in love with cell and gene therapy. Starting with gene therapy, I was wondering, Florence, you already hinted at it, from your perspective, it's been 20 years since the halted pen trial. There's been a lot of scientific and definitely a lot of commercial progress made. From your perspective, what are some areas that still need work, and what are you excited about in next-gen gene therapies?
Okay, so when we talk about, you mentioned Jesse Gelsinger, it's important to look. It's important to look at what happened then. For those of you who don't know, he was the first publicly identified patient who died in a gene therapy trial. And interestingly, it was an OTC, the disease. And just I think 5 days ago, Ultragenics released some positive data in that disease. So 20 years later, we're still trying to cure it. So in addition to the progress that we made scientifically since then, we also have to look at that trial itself and the lapses and the ethical issues, which for sure we have improved on that front. He shouldn't have been in that trial to begin with. His ammonia levels, his liver wasn't functioning, his ammonia was too high, and he shouldn't have been in the trial. He was in it, was injected, died 4 days later. And he wasn't, there were transparency issues. He wasn't informed of 2 monkeys that died from that being injected, and he wasn't informed of the very severe side effects that other patients had. So what was it? It was an adenovirus as the vector. So of course, 20 years later, now we are doing adeno-associated viruses. We're doing lentiviruses. The question is, do you want to take an efficacious virus and make it safer, or do you want to take a safe virus and make it more efficacious? Those are choices I guess companies are working on today. Even the viruses that I mentioned, I mean, I just saw Flagship the other day put together $50 million for a company called Ring for annuloviruses. I've never even heard of an annulovirus, but that's the progress we're making. We're still, we're still working on that. I would say the three issues that still are an issue, I guess, are genome integration, tissue access, immunogenicity. And 20 years, okay, we have improved, but those issues are still there. Safety is so important, but how safe is safe enough? So that's always has to be at the back of the mind. But in terms of, I think we've really improved in terms of the transparency, the ethics, the oversight, the oversight of the trials. We've improved, of course, in the vectors, in the viruses, in the genome integration. You want targeted delivery. You want to make sure that it goes where it's supposed to go, and you always have to think of safety.
Yeah, maybe I can add to that. I think in terms of safety as well as viral vectors, I think one area that's very exciting that we see as well is non-viral vector, non-viral forms of gene therapy delivery. And I think that is moving forward one way of actually overcoming the immunogenicity, the safety issues, even the cost, as well as the scalability of production of gene therapy. I think that is one area that is very exciting, and there are a lot of companies actually working on this. So just to give you an example of one of our portfolio companies that we invested in, they're not a gene therapy company per se, but they're a drug delivery company. So they developed a silicon nanoparticle that is essentially very versatile. They can put in any payload, they can functionalize it to target it to different tissues, and they can actually decide on how fast the release kinetics of the payload that you actually want to release. So they recently showed that their nanoparticles can actually deliver siRNA as well as CRISPR. And I think that's the first step into moving in that direction into non-viral delivery methods for gene therapy, which is really exciting for Vickers.
Can you comment on what stage the company was at when you invested?
So we invested when they were a Series A. They've gone up, and at that point in time it was like a 10 million. We invested when they didn't have, they were just about to come out with their first products. So the first products that they have are all topical because they also have very good penetration of the skin, and they can actually improve the efficacy of many of the dermatological products that can go into the skin by increasing efficacy or reduce toxicity, as well as reduce, let's say, side effects. So that's one of the things that they went in first. But then gene therapy was something that they chanced upon, and they're so now working in collaboration with another company to essentially develop this for ophthalmic gene therapy uses. And now we've gone with them, and they're raising their Series B right now.
Right, and in terms of what we're looking for is sort of the next generation that's addressing some of the pitfalls of what we're currently seeing. So we're very interested in non-viral, and that's why we invested in the company we invested in. They're actually using a B cell, a plasma cell, that will act as a factory for enzyme, protein production, and it really hits home when you talk to a patient advocate. So at CERN, I had the chance to meet lots of them. They all swore to CERN. It was important as a government entity to serve the patient population. And there is a story, and it never hits you until you hear a personal story about a father of a little boy who had some form of muscular dystrophy, and he was so excited that he was able to enroll his son in a gene therapy trial, only he got the low dose, it wasn't very effective, and he couldn't redose. So, that's the sad part about what we're currently facing right now. And when I met this other company that called themselves, a software for sales, whatever that meant, it didn't ring a bell. But once I, heard the language of our industry used, and I saw it was non-viral, that was like ding ding. That's really important. Other companies have done things like use stem cells, but then you have to myeloablate, and that has not been successful. I mean, it makes people more sick in some ways. In fact, actually, CERM invested in one of those projects, and it kind of really didn't go anywhere. So you sort of want to avoid that as a next generation. And then you mentioned cost, and we all have to do something about this at some point. I mean, we'll never be a cost plus, industry, and we're not advocating that, but we got to get better at reducing the cost of these very expensive therapies.
So, one part of that also is the disease indications that gene therapy is targeting. So if you're looking forward, what are some indications that you're excited to see gene therapy tackle, and how do you think the companies can best position themselves in a raising funding? Lawrence, I guess we'll start off with you.
The same order. Well, it looks like hemophilia is going to be next, I think. That's not something you would necessarily, it's not the first thing that comes to mind when you think of gene therapy. That could be tough because there are alternatives to treat. So, but it looks like it's coming. I'm quite interested to see gene therapy in Parkinson's. That's not a monogenic disease. That's tough, and it's interesting. And I've just seen a company, I forget who, doing autologous it's interesting. And if we talk about other indications, and I'm going to plug my company again, because it's along the lines of non-viral, this is what it is, it's non-viral gene delivery using a proprietary chitosan formulation to deliver genes through mucosal barriers. So mucosa going so far as going into the intestine, they're going into bladder. Their first indication is non-muscle invasive bladder cancer. In going through the intestine, they're going for SBS, short bowel syndrome, and IBD, using a delivery of IL-10 to the gut or PD-L1 into the gut. So similar to what everyone said, it's a non-viral delivery, which is in terms of safety, in terms of cost, it's very attractive.
Alona, how about you?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that I am excited about any one particular indication, because quite honestly, we're agnostic about indications. What we like to invest in is, great science that makes sense. So if it's cell therapy or an NK cell, or even a small molecule, we'll invest in it if it has the whole planopy of what makes a good investment. And it's not just science. It's sort of the treatment plan. It's the people. It's the vision and getting to market in a reasonable, straightforward way. So I don't really just say, I want to find a gene therapy for X, Y, and Z. I mean, personally, I would love to see society be able to use all types of these advanced therapeutics to better health and actually increase, health span, not just lifespan, as we all talk about. Any way they can do it works for me if it makes sense and it's not too painful for our economy to handle.
Thank you. Ohi, can you comment a little bit about gene editing technologies? So, if you just focus on CRISPR alone, in the last few years, it's evolved quite a bit. There are minor innovative changes on the Cas protein, but also big platform changes like with base editing and prime editing. So it's moving so fast. How do you evaluate gene editing technologies when they come to you?
Yeah, so I think for us right now, in terms of gene editing, I think it's a very exciting field. For us, I think we still feel that there are quite a lot of side effects in terms of off-target effects. And that is one thing that we definitely pay a lot of attention to when we look at the technologies that are coming out and the companies that are actually trying to use CRISPR. We really want to see that whatever that they're using would be able to essentially overcome or at least reduce or the way they're delivering it or what indication they're targeting, that there will be less of that off-target effect. Because I still think in terms of CRISPR technology, we are making progress. Even with base editing and all the other technologies, there's still a little bit of that, the off-target effect that I feel is still a risk in terms of using that technology. So we are looking very closely, but we do think that there's still a little bit of a ways to go.
All right, the two of you also looking at gene editing technologies at all, or?
Interestingly, we don't see a lot of those. It just doesn't come into our, doesn't come to the top of my pile on my desk. But I just generally in following the trend, for me, the biggest issue is off-target effects.
Yeah.
Clearly number one.
Yeah, it's way too early for me to feel comfortable with it, but I'm not seeing a ton of those companies come through. And recently, just a friend, around dinner was saying, "Oh, I want to invest in CRISPR companies," and I just said, "Don't do it." It's, and it's for a person, it's her own personal money. I'm like, it's a little early. I know there's a lot of hype and it's exciting, but really, there's so much else that's safer.
So we at CERN have two IND-enabling stage projects in CRISPR, both for sickle cell disease, one out of Stanford, one at UCSF. And it's actually innovating beyond the current ones. It's going to correct the actual mutation in the beta globin gene. But the big risk there is if you shut that gene off, you get beta thal cells, right? So there is that particular risk that they have to account for in that particular in those studies when they go to the clinic. But it is actually fixing the mutation itself, so we're excited about those.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question then. Sorry, but because I am curious, why is this all this hype around CRISPR when you had zinc fingers? And we saying that from CERN, was very big and bullish on funding zinc fingers. Do you think zinc fingers has gone by the wayside,
Well, the simple answer is anybody can do CRISPR. I mean, they were selling kits either than yeast as well. So the technology barrier is much lower, and the cost is much lower as well.
Or do you think the cost of the drug is going to be lower?
Of course not.
Right.
So
why would the focus be on CRISPR then? I just don't get it.
It's just a much easier tool to edit.
But if the company is able to produce a drug, they've got the expertise, and just because a researcher in academia could do it, that's irrelevant to whether or not you have a drug on the market that's helping people.
Having said that, we're also funding Sangamo zinc finger nuclease therapy for transfusion-dependent thalassemia, so we're everywhere.
Right.
But in that trial, the patients are responding quite well, and the data is very good. So, in those respects, you could have competing technologies and you can fund all of those, but I think that there is a big buzz about CRISPR just because of the ease of using that technology.
Right. Doesn't mean it's better.
No, of course. I want to transition a little bit away from gene therapy to cell therapies, which is very broad, very heterogeneous. And let's put aside CAR-Ts for a little bit, as well as gene-modified hematopoietic stem cells. If you look at other modalities, so you've got a bunch of stem cell-based therapies. There's still over 1,000 MSC-based trials ongoing all over the world. But there's also pluripotent stem cell-based therapies, which is a big focus for us, and also NK cells, Tregs, and so on. When you look at this plethora of cell therapies that are out there, how are you navigating those? We'll start with you, Bobby.
Yeah, so we're closely looking at the space of cell therapy. I think one of the questions that we all ask ourselves is, right now, whatever cell therapy doesn't improve is autologous. And I think one of the major barriers to this is essentially scale, cost, and I think in order to go in terms of a more broadly applicable cell therapy that will be available to more people, I think we have to go the allogeneic path, essentially having off-the-shelf options for cell therapy. And so we're closely looking in this space. We haven't decided on a cell type, I would say. In terms of the Tregs, the NK cells, the T delta gamma cells, I think they all have potential. It is still early to say, but there are advantages and disadvantages to each one and a case for each one. But I think definitely having an off-the-shelf solution is something that I think is very much needed. And I think whatever company that will be first to go into humans to show some form of efficacy would have a very big advantage.
Florence, do you have any comments on that, the cell side?
So, as I said earlier, we have not yet made an investment in cell therapy, but we're watching the space. The opportunities we have seen are mostly variations of CAR T. Many of them have CD19, and there are 132 CAR T trials with CD19, so please come up with another one. The next one, I see there's BCMA. I think there's like 630 or 40 BCMA. So everyone, I guess, they claim to differentiate themselves, but there has to be some redundancy. We're watching. I like how the NK cells field is progressing. I think that's quite interesting. NK cells. Again, there's the argument of autologous and allogeneic. The industry may be split 50-50, and everyone has a strong opinion on each one. Most of the ones we've seen are autologous. But of course, allogeneic could be the future. But we're still watching the space.
Right, and recently we had made 2 investments in this area. One was an NK cell it's a platform, NK cell platform with any antibody, and it's my ex-Genentech, head of manufacturing. That's one of the co-founders, so that seemed like a natural. And they just got their IND actually early approved, so that's pretty exciting. But if it was some other cell and it was the ex-head of Genentech manufacturing and the data was the same, I'd be on board as well, because it's not just the modality, it's the whole ecosystem that is surrounding a company as to whether or not you decide to fund. So that was a natural, because 1, he can access money because he's got a name. 2, he knows what he's doing. He's been around the block. He can overcome a problem. 3, he knows good science when he sees it, and he can access advisors as need be. Another interesting one that we did is a CIK cell with a vaccinia virus, it made good sense. It had a good team, somebody who's exited a company before. That one is autologous, so I was a little reticent to do it because I really wanted an allo play. And then the first one I mentioned came up. So I'm a real big fan of allo. Maybe it's the years at Genentech that's made me that way, but it just seems like it's more readily scalable, and then ultimately you can reduce the cost, and then you can have wider use worldwide.
Maybe to add to Ilona's point about manufacturing, I think one of the big issues about cell therapy now is also essentially the lack of ability to actually manufacture or scale these cells. There's really a huge need for the ability or companies to be able to have access or even just build amongst their own in-house the ability to scale these cells and grow these cells. So I think one interesting, we definitely look out for companies that are hopefully vertically integrated, so they have their own facilities. But I think one interesting space that we've started to see as well are actually companies that act like they're essentially CROs, and they essentially provide services to essentially grow these cells for whatever need that you may need from preclinical studies. So any company could actually access them. We've been seeing quite a number trying to, enter this space because there's such a huge need for growing up all these cells for cell therapy.
Yeah, definitely. Contract manufacturing is a huge growing business. A lot of it tends to focus on CAR Ts. from our perspective, on the academic side, there are a few academic facilities that do GMP manufacturing and cell therapies, but when it gets to commercial in the state of California, there aren't that many contract manufacturing facilities focusing on even early and late stage clinical manufacturing. So I think that's an area ripe for investment. In terms of the autologous versus allogeneic, one argument to make for autologous is that it's going to establish proof of concept and it's not going to have to overcome the immune barrier. So when you're looking at that perspective, if a company's coming to you with an autologous approach first, following on actively researching an allo approach after that, how do you evaluate that?
Bingo. That's exactly what that autologous company said. We're going to do this because I can get into the clinic a lot faster, and then later on we can change it. And I said, well, that's reasonable, and so I ultimately we invested because there was at least this thought process. I don't know if it'll be successful, but I think that's important to know that at some place there'll be at least a go no go decision as whether or not that makes sense, and having that potential optionality, even if it's just a potential, is really important for us.
So you're going to talk about manufacturing a little bit as being a potential hurdle. When you're evaluating companies in the cell and gene therapy space, they're generally going to be early stage given where your funds operate. How much do you want them to have worked out the overall regulatory pathway, and also start thinking about things like reimbursement and pricing? Hello.
I'm sorry, I'm a lawyer by training, so that explains it. Yes. Meaning, it's never too soon, and I sort of say that lightly, to think about reimbursement and pricing. You do really, if you're at the preclinical stage, okay, don't. But, even as early as phase 1, you should be thinking about the reimbursement approach. It's important to start having, a more strategic perspective. And in terms of manufacturing, it's always sort of like, pay me now, pay me later. And everyone is cash strapped in the beginning. You see this time and time again, and I don't have the answer for it because you're cash strapped. There's only so much you can do. But having been at Genentech when they had, a blank check to write, they always wanted to see very early on all the bells and whistles and the manufacturing worked out early. But with the smaller companies, you can't do it. So I think we just have to give and take a little bit.
I think for Vickers, we definitely do look at how the company has thought about it, because at the end of the day, for cell and gene therapy, like I mentioned, it can be very cost prohibitive in terms of the cost of the therapy, and we do feel that in terms of the larger society, in the longer term, and I would say in the near term it's fine, but in the longer term, this is not sustainable. So we definitely do think very deeply about this, and we would like the company to have thought about the regulatory framework that they're going to be running through. And because in part of knowing about the regulations, how much it's going to cost as well to go through trials, to go through to run their, to essentially get the manufacturing done. So I think it's a whole process, and then we can understand from there how much you're raising, why you need the money, and we can help you then decide when to next raise, how much money you might want to raise, and what valuations you want to raise. So these are kind of questions that we would like the companies to actually have started thinking about, even though they're early. They may not be at the point of realizing how much of an importance that is, but I think it's very important for companies to think quite deeply about that question.
Well, even as a board member, like talking about after the investment, we don't invest and forget. I mean, we're very active on the board, and that's really important when you're sort of trying to decide, okay, where should this company go? They have a platform they can invest or in many different disease indications. We and my other board members are really encouraging certain CEOs to go out and price the trials for all these different, competing indications, because we can't fund all of it. And it's really important to have talked to the KOLs on all fronts: reimbursement, competition, the pathway, and maybe even get some quotes on the clinical trials. And then as a board, you can make the decision, because there's a lot of choice oftentimes with these companies as to what strategic route to go, what indication should be first.
For us, with our test case of our one gene therapy company, we invested very early. It wasn't make or break if they had their university policy thought out as of yet. We had to move that so we wanted to see that the science worked, that they made their proprietary transport formulation to get it into the gut, and of course, the sooner the better. Yes, to work on that. But they're still not in the clinic. It's still at the science. But yes, it's always now that the team is bigger, and there are people who are looking at that. But when we invested so early on, it wasn't a criteria that if they don't have that now, we won't invest.
So you mentioned science, and you're doing a lot of technical due diligence, Florence, and I'm wondering if you have advice for some of the startup audience here on how best they can structure their package, their data, to be the most compelling when they come to you.
Okay, to structure their data. Okay, to structure their package. A slide deck of 20 slides, maybe, to start. No, but we like to see, how do you differentiate yourself from others? There's so many things. And so the one we picked was the non-viral. And, how you can show a proof of concept within a reasonable amount of time. Having said that, though, we are patient investors, and we will be with them until an exit. But we also like to have our syndicate around the table who are there with us. So we won't go in and hope to find someone. They have to be around the table, and we have to know how much we need and who is there until our exit. So in addition, for them to show us how to differentiate and how it would work, we have to know who else is going to be there with us, because it's a significant amount of money for a proof of concept.
And then, Pokey, once you made an investment in a company, how much are you helping them advance their product development and science?
So for us, I wouldn't say that we want to be the scientists. So I'm scientifically trained as well, but we're there to help you mostly actually to raise money. And I think that should be the job of the VC. Essentially, when we invest in a company, we go on for the companies that we are very proud of and very successful. We follow on in big ways, and we bring our friends, our fellow investors, and our LPs to co-invest with us. So just to give you an example, there's a pharmaceutical company down in San Diego that we've invested in. We initially invested a small amount, 12 million, but we eventually followed on and with more and more investment. And we've privately raised about 400 million for this company just to run multiple clinical trials through our friends and our LP base essentially for this company. So they've not had to go out to raise any money on their own. So this is the kind of help we essentially bring to the companies, and we obviously internally know the company very well such that we can help them raise this money. So we know the technology, we know the founders very well, and so we can help them to be that extra voice out there, so they're not doing it alone.
And Lona, you hinted at this during your intro. So all three of the funds up here have a geographic focus, and I think Florence mentioned it as well. Can you comment a little bit on how you benefit from having that geographic focus and how you're benefiting that particular region as well as in terms of the biotech ecosystem there?
Well, sure. Well, so just to reiterate, we're in the U.S., and I wish I would have said North America when we were negotiating those contracts, but that's typical America. Japan and Israel. So Israel is a really great source of digital health, IT, and IP. So of course that was a natural. Japan, obviously, because we have great contacts there. That's where our LPs are. And I do think, first of all, the U.S., we're just another contributor, but we can help them in accessing, for instance, the regulatory pathway, which, as you all know, is truncated and more so than here in Japan, and it ended up being truncated before anything was happening in a more significant way here in the U.S. And it was George Hara that did that, and he did that while I was at CERN, and he asked me when I was at CERN to ask the FDA to do that, and I said, no way, because at that point in time, the FDA was just getting used to cell therapy, and we were doing these roundtables with them, and to ask them then to suddenly say, we were approved after a phase 2, I think we would have lost all credibility with them. So, but now, I think they want to be more innovative and take on maybe a little more risk, and the risk has been reduced since then. But I think we could help people get to Japan if that's what they want to do, obviously.
Florence, for you, part of your mandate, I'm assuming, is to enriching your local region. So for us, it's similar in California. We're trying to pull researchers and companies to California. I'm sure you're doing the same with your fund for Quebec. Can you comment a little bit about any success stories that you had in terms of pulling companies there, or on the flip side, if you have a Canadian company that's raising funds, how do you go beyond that geography to help them get additional funding?
Okay, first of all, because we're Canadian, we're conservative. So we're polite, I apologize. Our rounds are generally smaller than American, than the typical American rounds. But we invest in specialized funds, life science funds as well, and they have best efforts to invest in Quebec. So the funds that we invest in are American, are European, Canadian as well. So they bring, we have rights to co-invest with them. They bring their fellow investors, friends, their VC friends. So that's how we can get a syndicate around the table.
So there's about 5 minutes or so left. I want to see if there's any questions from the audience. I'm not sure. I guess you can just yell. Any questions for the panel, the audience?
I just have a very quick one, and you hit on some pieces of that, which is manufacturing. But besides the manufacturing, navigating the manufacturing challenges, what are some of the key commercialization strategies that you see work with your portfolio companies, or you're seeing as emerging that might succeed?
So the question was on commercialization strategies, and is it particular to manufacturing, or?
You talked about manufacturing, besides the manufacturing piece.
Well, it's definitely reimbursement, and with these cell and gene therapies, they're going to have someone said don't call it a large price tag. He said, say they have a large value, which supports a larger price, and I think that's really accurate because, at least we like to say they could be a functional cure, and we have to get very innovative on how we're going to reimburse at the, maybe the $1 million level if it's a one-time. And it's, there's pay as you go, which often is like 5 years. There's pay for success. There's a guarantee, a part of it that you pay back if it's unsuccessful. That can be tough on a company. So there's a lot of models being explored, and I think we need to continue the dialogue amongst the whole ecosystem on how to reach that, because otherwise they won't get adopted. In fact, Libera is a perfect example. That was the first gene therapy in 2012, 13 that was approved for at $1 million. They're off the market because they sold so little, because we weren't equipped to reimburse. This was in Europe. And so we can't go down that road. We've got to get better at this.
So I can comment on a couple of examples. So the first one is Orchard. So as you know, they acquired GSK Strimellus, which was for skin and gene therapy. But that particular gene therapy had to be administered at a single location in Europe. So when they started off with their own asset, the first thing I try to do is make sure that they can freeze that formulation, and so that they could have it be they could have treat it at much different centers, and also not have to worry about that having it be a live, non-frozen product, right? So that was the strategy that they employed going forward, and that's how they're approaching that. So it's the manufacturing side there, as well as formulation side. And then on the strategy side, aside of therapeutics, which somebody mentioned that you have a bazillion BCMA CAR T products out there, right? And Poseida was entering a little bit later, and the way that they wanted to get a jump on that was they got FDA RMAT designation, which allows them to communicate with the FDA more effectively as they're moving forward. There's just more attention given to that project as it's moving through the clinic. And they can use that now to streamline into a pivotal trial and hopefully jump some of those BCMA products that are a little bit further ahead than they are.
But I think that what you said is a really good point. It's the whole thing about frozen. So, Dendreon was one of the first, companies to come on, and, ultimately they didn't do very well. One, because people say it wasn't as effective to meet the price, but two, it was this whole manufacturing issue. You had to have the hospitals within 24 hours of their manufacturing plant, and so the supply chain logistics just were not practical, because I think they didn't have frozen lyophilized product. So that's a really important manufacturing step that one wouldn't think would be so important, but it really hindered the company significantly.
We have time for one last question, a quick one. Maybe in the audience have a question? Yeah.
What would you say are the 3 key factors for each of you to do an investment? I know it's
What was the question?
What are the 3 key factors for an investment?
I'll start. Okay, the science has to make sense. There has to be scientific rationale to go forward. There has to be, if a mechanism of action is known, that's certainly appealing to me. And we have to know that we could find a syndicate that would around the table. We have to know that we could find others like-minded if we like something that would be with us for the journey to take it forward. I don't know if I said three. I mean, there's so many more.
I know.
Okay, I guess I can distill it for Riggers into 3 things that we definitely look at. One would be technology, which Florence has mentioned. We want to know that the technology works, at least to some extent. There will be risk in terms of whether it may not work. In biology, we never know that, and we understand that. So we are ready to take that risk to a certain extent. So we want to see data that would reduce that risk to some extent, and so we feel more comfortable to this. So that's technology. Second is IP. We want to know that it's well protected. The company has space to operate, and that they would be able to make something out of this during the time that they have to go through trials and all that. And the last one is market. So we want to know that you're addressing a big market, even if it's a smaller market, talking about reimbursement and cost, how you're going to make the business plan work. So I guess those are 3 things that we definitely look at.
And I would just add, because all of those are important, team. The team is so critical. And I've had debates with other colleagues in the industry, science or team or science. If it's, good or pretty good science, but an excellent team versus the opposite, what would you rather do? And we all have these debates. And, having seen some things more than others, I think the team is so critical. If you can't work with the team, if there's a CEO that can't take direction, gets defensive, that'll never work. So team it might even be one before science, and I never thought I'd say that.
And with that, we all as a team can head to the reception. So I want to thank all the speakers here for their time.